So you right now are probably sitting in a difficult situation, feeling sorry for yourself, or struggling to get your business to the point that you want it to get to. Well, you're in luck because this video is going to break down to you three main ways in which you actually can use this adversity you're currently facing to actually see the success you want. And I've actually left a bonus point at the end, which will be the best thing you hear today. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So first up, you need to change your perspective on the world. You need to start viewing things in a much more positive light, because in order to go out there and actually succeed, you're going to actually need to see the good and see the opportunities and see the chances and be able to capitalize on them. And if you're in this negative state of mind where you're constantly thinking about what's gone wrong or how what you're doing isn't currently working, then you'll never actually do the right work to get to where you want to get to. And this is why it's so important to flip every current negative thing you are experiencing into a positive thing, because by changing your perspective and your framing of things, you'll actually be able to see success in that thing. For example, I've just recently come back from the Digital Asset Summit a few weeks back, and it was a great experience. I've seen so many people who I was outreaching to a few months before and trying to get into contact with them to try and sell them my service that I'm providing, and I haven't seen any success yet. And obviously off the back of such a good event, by nature I've sort of had a come down. Like, it hasn't been as exciting just back on my desk trying to do the work to try and actually build out the system so that I can truly service these people. And so far still zero clients, but I'm actually still seeing this as a good thing. The way I currently perceive this is that God is still telling me that, okay, I have the idea, I have to some degree a good product market fit. Now I just need to make sure my product is top tier so that by the time he gives me that first client, I can actually give them the best service they ever wished for. And by changing that perspective, it's stopping me from having a good event, which was the Digital Asset Summit, then having a come down off of that, feeling like, okay, why are the clients not here yet? It's been a few weeks, where are they? And then eventually giving up. But by seeing it in a positive perspective, it's going to allow me to keep going. And who knows, my first client might not actually come from the Digital Asset Summit directly, but they may come off the back of that. From now they've seen that I'm posting, they've seen that I've attended this event, which was to some degree of a decent prestige, so they'll be like, okay, this person's trustable, let's try and work with him, let's see if he can provide us with the service we desire. So just by changing your framing and perspective on things, you'll see the world in a whole different manner, and you'll realize how much more opportunity there is than you think, especially if you have a business idea that you're currently thinking about pursuing, or you're not really quite there at the stage where you're starting. But just once you understand how broad the world is, and it ultimately comes down to two things. You can have the delusion of scarcity or the delusion of abundance, because the truth is there's an infinite amount of money in the world, and it's your job to go out there, make sure you earn what you need to look after yourself and others, and do the best that you can. So by turning every negative into a positive, that's the first way in which you can guarantee that the adversity you're facing will fuel your success. Because listen to any successful person on a podcast or in a short, like 60-second video, they're going to talk about a hard time that they had and how they used it to make it a positive. So by just simply adopting this trait, you're going to find yourself able to flip all negatives into positive. And I have countless examples, and I've given one about the Digital Asset Summit, but you have probably more than I do if you're slightly older than me. So you know what you need to do is just change your negative thinking into a positive light, and you actually see that there's more opportunity in that you can do what you want to do. It just might not be as easy or as straightforward as you initially thought. Cool. And off the back of changing positives into negative, this is why you're still experiencing the negative, which could be like objective circumstances such as myself. You owe people money and you're trying to get out of those situations. What you've got to do is actually be able to use that to build up resilience and strength. And what do I mean by this? So cool, let's say for example you have a bank loan and your business is trying to get off the ground, but you know by 2 weeks in the future you got to pay the bank X amount. So say for example 2 weeks you got to pay the bank X amount, but right now you don't even have your first client, and you know once you get that first client you can pay off the bank. By simply getting stuck in that mindset of how am I going to force to pay them back, and just focusing on actually doing such a good job that it's undeniable that you don't get your first client, then eventually by focusing on the positive yet again, you're going to actually get that result, because you would have done the work necessary to make that a reality. And instead of fixating on the negative, which would have been that you owe somebody money in 2 weeks, if you then fixate on the positive and make sure that outcome come true, then you will use that adversity that you had that allowed you to lock in hard enough to make sure that you could actually go and succeed. There's a great story of how the British Army once upon a time defeated the Spanish Armada. They had their boats, they were warships, they were at sea, I believe the Spanish Armada outnumbered the British Army by a large scale. And what the British did was burn the boats of retreat. So by burning the boats of retreat, this meant they had, if they wanted to survive and eventually go home and see their families, they would have to charge forward at the gunfire and cannon fire and defeat the Spanish Armada, which they eventually did. But the story in that is by using that adversity that they had to build up the strength and courage and boldness to actually go forward and charge at the goal which they needed at the time, which was to defeat the opposing army. They eventually did succeed. And you can do the same in your life today. If you're currently in a bad situation and you're trying to get out, then by using that bad situation to give you the discipline you need to not miss a day, to not miss an email, to not miss a post, and to actually do everything you need to succeed, eventually, as long as you're consistent over time, the consistency compounds. It will compound to the point of no return, and then you will get to that which you want. And that's why the second main thing you need to do if you're currently experiencing adversity and you want to get your business off the ground is just make sure that you're not afraid to get hurt and you're not afraid to go forward and do something that may take a little bit of a risk, because ultimately things are risky to people who don't understand them. But as long as you're taking a calculated risk and you're willing to actually go after that which you're choosing and you're disciplined enough, you will eventually get there. And thirdly, another point that you need to realize is all of this negative emotion and pain that you're feeling is 99% of the time just in your head, because the reality is there's a world out there where the people who, the rooms that you want to be in, they're living good lives, they're successful, they're doing that which they want to do, and they're living a life of freedom and a life of that which they desire. And what's holding you back is all the stuff that stops you, which is 9 times out of 10 is yourself. It will be the negative thoughts. It will be the laziness when you want to go out. You said you're going to exercise that day, but it's a bit cold outside. You're not feeling like it, or you don't have the energy there and then. It's you versus you. And ultimately in life, a lot of life could be boiled down to the fact that it's you versus you. But especially when you're starting a business, it's you versus you. Especially if you're a solo founder such as myself, it's me versus myself in the morning. It's me versus the task I set for the day. Can I complete it, or will I let the task overwhelm me and will I not do anything? And by just continuing to overcome yourself, overcome your limited beliefs, overcome the adversity and just overcome the struggle, you'll eventually climb and elevate yourself to a point where you are actually the person who you set out to become. So just remember, it's you versus you. Nobody's actually holding you back. And even if you think they are, there's always ways around it so that you can get that which you're after. And obviously, I say this with a pinch of salt. Don't go crazy. Don't go do things that are out of the norm just to try and generate attention or things of that nature. No, just do what you know is intrinsically right for you to do and go and get that which you want, as long as it's done in an ethical manner. And finally, this is the last point, and which is the bonus point, and which is arguably the most important point. And on the journey of trying to get your business off the ground, what you're going to need to do is always choose to be better rather than bitter. And the reason I say this is because when you're coming up with your idea, if you put your idea out there, you start telling people, they're always going to push back and give you feedback. And this feedback, yet again, it can be good feedback and negative feedback, like it's not going to work, XYZ. But what you need to do is obviously, one, frame this from a negative feedback to positive feedback. So if people give you a problem that you can't answer there and then, or that you know the answer to, maybe you sit on it, you don't say anything back, but you think in your head, okay, how will I overcome this problem that this person just put in front of me? And then you know you have a solution for that, you can continue to proceed. And this is why it's good sometimes to share your ideas and put your information out there so that people can tell you, okay, maybe you need to do this or maybe you can do that, so you know which feedback to take and reject. And it will ultimately be the way you choose to frame that feedback which will make you successful or not. Because if people keep giving you feedback saying, oh no, that doesn't work, you need to do this instead, XYZ, and you just take that for face value, like, okay, it's not going to work, you're just bitter. And ultimately, if you're bitter, you're not helping anybody. You're not helping the clients who you initially set out to try and help, and you're not helping yourself because you're not doing what you told yourself you want to do. But if you can take the feedback and see okay, this person said my product's not quite developed enough, I need to do XYZ to develop it, then you can choose to be bitter and take offense, or you can choose to be like, okay, thank you for that feedback, let me actually go and develop this product to a manner where it's undeniable. And just by simply changing that framing, and even in yourself, because ultimately it's all us versus us out there. It's you versus you every day. Every morning you wake up and you don't want to do stuff, it's you versus you. So just by becoming better rather than bitter, over time, as long as you keep taking the steps to become better and better, you'll get to the point where you're undeniable and people just can't, even if they're bitter towards you, if you're better than them, most people will be bitter towards you. But what you got to do is just keep becoming better so that you're undeniable and that you don't just take everything face value and get caught up in your own head, because ultimately it's you versus you out there. You gotta go out there and get that which you're seeking, and don't let anybody stop you. And yeah, I hope this has been of value, and this is just one of the videos I've made recently. There's a lot more, and there's actually a video that one of my favorites, which is about the 5 mental shifts you need to guarantee success. So I recommend going to watch that after this. The link will be in the description as always, and without any further ado, have a good one.